it's yeah. On behalf of the One Text initiative, I'm very happy to welcome a very distinguished panel of experts, politicians, and professors. Actually, one professor, Professor Navaratna Bandara, for our second leg of our discussion on devolution and the provincial councils. One Text initiative, to introduce the institute a little bit in brief, it's a collaborative institute that brings together all political parties represented in the parliament for collaborative deliberation on matters that concern the nation of Sri Lanka. And as a constitutional reform or a new constitution per se has been proposed by the government, it's some of the pertinent questions that are at the table today, or that have been in concern for the country for a long time, have been that of the national question. And One Text initiative plays a key role in bringing together, as the name suggests, the One Text initiative tries to bring all parties to one text, in that sense, to some consensus. So keeping to our promise, we have brought together today representatives from different political parties and an authority on the subject of devolution, and who's been in the discourse and who has been shaping the discourse of Sri Lanka on the topic of devolution and decentralization and power sharing, basically, for a long time, and that is Professor Navaratna Bandara, and who will be delivering our keynote today. And then we have the leader of the opposition, Honorable Thavarasa, who was the leader of the opposition of the Northern Provincial Council, Honorable Thavarasa, and the Secretary General of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Honorable Nizam Karyappa, and going forward, we have Honorable Shiral Laktilaka, a former member of the former UNP member in the Western Provincial Council, and also with us, whom I don't happen to see right now. Are you still logged in, Honorable?
Yes, I'm there.
Oh, right.
You can
okay. Right. Then we have Honorable Kitsiri Manchanayake, a member of the a former member of the Western Provincial Council again. So without further ado, I will give the space here for Professor Navaratna Bandara to talk about the to place the discourse in context with regard to what it is like to be talking about power sharing in Sri Lanka. So, Professor, to tell you about a little bit about the ground rules here. I mean, we are going to, Professor Navaratna Bandara will talk about something like 15 to 20 minutes about the topic. That will be our keynote. Then all speakers will get 10 minutes, as all other speakers, invitees, will talk about the topic about 10 minutes each. And then we have a open discussion exchange session. Thank you very much. Professor Navaratna, thank you very much for inviting our invitation, and please take the lead now, from now on.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this discussion today, One Text program, and also I must say hi to our distinguished panel. Actually, I've been engaged in studying the working of provincial councils last 20 years, and I think last year we have actually issued a publication also 30 years of devolution, this one. And basically, I've been studying the working of the administrative side of the provincial councils. So now coming to your concept paper, you have raised several questions in that concept paper for this discussion. One is whether the constitutional system should be maintained with the new constitution if it is drafted or inaugurated or abolished. I'm not going to comment on the new constitution, but it's just still as a political theme, not yet come to the practical situation. So it's just be there. I don't want to comment on that, but I must say that if there's a new constitution, it must have the devolved system of governance. It has to continue with the provincial council system, but I think with huge modifications needed, because in 1987 it was a very hasty exercise, and the political exigencies at that time influenced the Sri Lanka government to enter into this discussion, and it's very quickly they drafted the 13th Amendment and came to the court and passed it. So so because of that, there are lots of weaknesses in the system. There's no proper examination was done about the subject allocation between the provincial council and the central government, those arrangements, and also even the administrative organization to be offered to the central provincial councils. Those were not actually properly discussed, and those then even the other aspects needed for the running of the councils, like fiscal and legislative competence or statute making competence. So they were not actually looked at in a proper way. So for the last 30 years, provincial councils had with their own representatives, different parties came to power in the regional level. Now you know what is the present situation. Presently, we don't have provincial councils. The provincial arrangements in the constitution is with the administrative organization is now run by the governors appointed by the central government. So as we experience with that situation today, we could see the provincial councils actually not having not a proper devolved institution. They have become apparatus of the central government. Central government was just amending the election law of the provincial council. Actually, they finally created no provincial council situation, no representatives, no elected members. The administration is running. So that is the system. Even without the people's representative, system could go. So that is not actually really what we envisage in a devolution. Devolving government power in any system expected to provide some sort of autonomy to the provinces or the regions. So that is one area we have to discuss. And what is the arrangement in the constitution for this devolution? Right? In the 13th Amendment, there are lots of restrictions for the provincial councils, even to the devolved power, exercise the devolved power by the constitution. Actually, if I say simply, the constitution doesn't give any power to the constitution, to the provincial councils. Councils have given only 36 subjects. So provincial council has to pass statute to get the authority under those subjects to exercise the exclusive executive authority given to the provincial councils. If there's no statute, no power. So then what they have to do is they have to just follow the central law and the statute passed by the central administrative apparatus to run the system. And if you go to the provincial list alone, only 5 subjects, I think, without any restrictions. All other subjects have different type of restrictions. Either they have to follow the existing national law or to use the space permitted by the existing law. So these type of conditions are there if you read the subjects. And some subjects, you know that there are appendixes and explaining. These are all actually centrally controlled again. So within that limit, even if the provinces wanted to pass statute, that is the most important function. For the last 30 years, they have not given a card. No provincial councils have a statute draft person or statute drafting unit. It is a special expertise. They have some lawyers appointed, but they are not actually trained to do that particular job. So the ministers in the provincial government doesn't have real actually legislative advice body to pass statutes. So because of statutes, even the past statutes even have lots of problems. And last year we have done a study. We found that except northern and eastern provinces, all other provinces have passed only 250 statutes for the last 30 years by 7 provincial councils. Northern and eastern have passed 26 for the last few years. One was from 2009, one was for 2013, and most of these statutes are actually just to run the system. Some finance statute, those things. And so that is one weakness, because any provincial autonomy is actually granted by center. No, center is devolved in the power. So the center has the responsibility of giving the necessary capacities to exercise that authority. So this statute making up as capacities is not actually provided. And when you come to the fiscal authority of financial and resources aspect, that is also not provided in a proper way. Now I have data. Even the use in the tax base, provincial council collects some revenue and this go to the central revenue, but they have to wait. They cannot use what they earn. They have to use what is given by the parliament. So they have to wait for the parliament allocations to spend. So 2017, I have figures. From state revenue, provinces got only total revenue 4.4 of the total state revenue. Center got 98.7. Local government 2.9. When you go to the expenditure side, provincial council actually spend from the total state expenditure just 9.5. Center has 88.7, local government 1.8. So this is, and when you come to the third capacity is administrative capacity. So, you know, our distinct members of the provincial council knows all the leaders of the provincial council administrators are loan from the central government. All are in services. They belong to central government services. So then their first loyalty to the center. Their promotion, their transfers, everything by the center. So that is maybe the one recommendation given by the Administrative Reform Committee of Mr. Vanasingh in 1987. Sending outline services personnel to the provinces to maintain the unitary nature of the unitary nature of the system, following the Indian model. Indian also, you know that all Indian services are running the states, but it's a different system there. So now what has happened is actually at the provincial level, we don't see a difference in the same central practices, central regulations, central procedures are going on. And that is why even today, without the representatives, people say it is running. So, so then if the next constitution, actually, I think if it is really a genuine constitution with actually genuinely committed to the democracy, there will be devolution. There will be, because there should be a second tier and third tier government. Now, actually, the provincial councils are not second tier. They are actually secondary to the center. They are not second tiers. Even third tiers, actually, they are actually subordinate. Now, you know, statutes are actually subordinate legislation. So within that limit, even they are not given necessary capacities to go on. And now I know in 2017, 34.6% of the public service personnel were in the provincial council system. So centers 40%, 43%. So a large number of public servants are actually attached to the provincial council system. So the present, for example, that the allocation, what is called block grant, completely actually for to pay the salaries. So then if actually by the next constitution, or if we want to revise the present system, they have to look into those aspects also, because the constitution and legal provisions should be arranged in such a way to facilitate these capacities also. Otherwise, people can say these are white element. Not a wasting money, but just there are no devolution, nothing going on. So this is what I've been suggesting now. For 30 years of existence, Provincial Council actually have shown some good practices. Actually, even in the statute making area, they have actually have gone actually brought some new dimensions. For example, like now, the preschool. Preschool is not in our administrative, our education policy. The early childhood is not actually properly attended in the education policy. So we get the kids to the classroom at the age of 5. But up to that point, they are at home. So some provincial councils actually using these preschool provisions have passed statutes giving the definition to that subject using what we call the early childhood. So early childhood development. So identifying the preschool as a part of the early childhood development. And also they have started now, for example, that is in the present arrangement, there should be always conflict, always confrontational approach by the center and provinces. But actually what we need is not confrontation, but some sort of sharing, consultative process, or collaborative process to pass statutes. So provincial councils actually have started in that way, avoiding conflict with the center and have some sort of consultative processes, have stakeholder meetings, and also bringing civil society also into the process and try to do something within that given framework. So it is not actually proper to ask whether provincial council is a success or not, or whether they have achieved the goals envisaged in the beginning. We can't say that because it's like tying all my hands and legs and put into the pool and asking me to swim. So provincial council actually some with that framework given. Now these 250 odd statutes also have is part of the legislative process now in this country. So all the provincial councils have established their own training centers, management development units, and actually organizing very concerted way to train their personnel from the top to the bottom. Sometimes with the centralized system that cannot be done. So there are good aspects. And also because of these restrictions, provinces are always very conscious doing their job, otherwise they cannot get the money. So they are planning, development program, everything done in a way actually give some quality to their programs to get the approval. So if there's any discussion going on to have a new constitution, better have a separate discussion on the working of the provincial councils and the experience, and also especially the good practices. Those things are important. I think these are the points I have to put into this discussion. Right, I will let other members to join.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much, Professor. Navaratna Bandar is a very senior professor from University of Peradeniya and a veteran on the subject. And he also, in his brief introduction to the topic, he brought about some very interesting points as to how actually from the beginning the provincial council systems, the system of provincial council has been limited, and it's been drafted quickly. And how the political exigency played a part in 1987 at the beginning, and then how it works, how the provincial councils have been working as a secondary layer of government than a second tier governance. The number of after 30 years of existence, 30 odd years now, only 250 odd statutes have been passed. And although some programs in some areas they have been showing some success, like the early childhood education. And then he also highlighted the importance of a non-confrontational path ahead. for the constitution, for the provincial councils, and then the very hot question as to whether the new constitution should, if it's coming, how the new constitution should look at, or the new constitution making process should look at the provincial councils as to the legitimacy of the question, whether they have been serving any purpose, because their hands and legs have been tied. So with that introduction, I will invite the members one by one to express your ideas. And I would also like to bring a few other points into consideration when you talk about the subject, we say within 10 minutes. Say there have been, I mean, provincial councils have been just one way of how Sri Lanka, the state of Sri Lanka, shares its power, the sovereignty. I mean, there are other ways of doing it, like local governments, and actually when it comes to administration, most of the administrative work has been done through the central government's agency, which is at the district level, which is, you know, the district secretariat, and that centralized mechanism. So how these each of these devolution, decentralization components of the state plays with each other, and the interplay between them. And then if you think it's suitable, please also touch on, I mean, touch on the point of the geopolitics of the provincial or power sharing in Sri Lanka. I mean, even the provincial councils have been set up as a you know, as a response, or as an outcome of the Indo-Lanka Accord way back. And power sharing has been looked at from earlier times. I mean, post 1980, as some you know, as a solution to the national question. So how do we bring these aspects into our discussion is something that we can look into. And then also, I mean, another aspect of the provincial councils or any power sharing arrangement is not just as a political solution to a political response to the national question, but on the other hand also to economic question. Can provincial councils enable the regions to better develop the areas? Can there be a system where more economic activity, more economic prowess can be achieved through a devolved system of governance? So with those ideas, I will first get the opinion from from Honorable Tavarasa, who has been the leader of the opposition in the northern province. Thank you. Honorable Tavarasa, you have to switch on your mic. You are muted. Switch on your mic, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
we do.
yes.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Indeed, thanks for Professor Navadraja for giving a full overview of what had happened over these years. I would start from my experience with the provincial council system. Really, this devolution or the 13th Amendment is the outcome of the long-standing demand of the Tamil-speaking people, particularly in the north and east, where they have been demanding for a devolved unit, I would say. Now, this, although this provincial council system came in 1987, for almost 26 or 27 years, the people who really demanded for it, or the people, particularly I'm referring to the people of the northern province, they had the opportunity to have their elected representatives to run this council in 2013, almost after 27 years. Now, as pointed out by Professor there are inbuilt inflaws in the system. In addition, over these 27 years, the central administrators have taken over most of the powers. What do you call a de facto control of the situation. It is not constitutional really, because there was nobody demanding that or asserting what has been in the 13th Amendment. So this is one of the issues what we have faced when we took over the Northern Provincial Council administration in 2013. But added to it, the provincial administrators or the body of provincial government, provincial administrators, sorry, but I am referring to the Northern Provincial Council experience, they have not taken any interest to assert their right, at least they assert what is possible right with all this, what do you call, derailment or all these shortcomings. They have failed to do that. I will cite an example. Professor was telling about this. Though we had to pass number of legislation, then only the provincial council will have the power or authority over the subjects given to them. But what happened in the Northern Provincial, though there is a weakness or there is a lapse that the government is not giving any allocation to have a legal draftsman in the Provincial Council, for the Northern Provincial Council, a lot of foreign governments came to the scene. They gave enough money to institutions in Colombo who are capable of drafting statutes to assist the Northern Provincial Council. But the Provincial Council didn't take any interest to do it. I am talking of my experience with the Northern Provincial Council. Their aim was to show the world that this Provincial Council is not workable. So similarly, even when you come to allocation of funds, now Professor was very correct that there is very limited funds allocated to the Provincial Council. The system has its inbuilt flaws, I admit. But lot of foreign governments and foreign institutions came to the rescue, came to assist the Northern Provincial Council. No sooner it got elected. But the provincial councils who were elected to administer it didn't take any care to get those assistance from the foreign governments. Now, this is what I am trying to establish, or what I am trying to tell is, although with all the defects, or as I said earlier, inbuilt inflaws in the provincial council system or in the 13th Amendment, and over the 26 years of administration, the center administrators have taken over power. Most of the powers where there is ambiguity, they have taken it to their side, or they have taken it to the advantage of the center. But the provincial administrators should have asserted, particularly the Northern Province, because they are the only people who have got a chance to do it. And this is the provincial council system itself is the outcome of the demand of the people, particularly of the North and generally of the North and East. So the provincial administrators who had come to power in 2013 had failed in their duty, or they have not shown any interest. Now I'll come to the point, what is going to be in future. As I see, it's the same set of people. Maybe in the number, the parties may get different equations, but the same set of people who are going to get elected again. Now, during this past 5 years, according to Professor Mrs. Chandrahasan and Dr. Jayampati, each provincial council will have to pass about 300 statutes to have all the powers, or to have all the 37 subjects given to the provincial council, each provincial council. So the Northern Provincial Council has, I don't know how Professor got the number, it's about 12 or 13 actually they have passed during the 5 years.
Together, they have together 26.
Sir, that is even the budget they count it as a 5-year budget. Each year budget they have counted it as a statute. -5. I'm just telling an example, sir. So likewise, they have not shown any interest. They have passed 455 resolutions. Resolution to UNHRC, resolution in respect of subjects which is not coming within the purview of the 13th Amendment. If you take the form of which you a resolution, it is related to the subjects of the center. And resolutions have no legal validity. For 5 years, we have wasted time in passing 455 resolutions, including resolution to UNHRC. This is not the subject matter. This is not what has been given to the provincial councils. So the provincial council, before we have the provincial council system, we must educate the provincial councillors. I can remember soon after the provincial council was established in 2013, early later part, some NGOs in the from Colombo came with leading professors who are very authoritative in the subject to educate the councillors, but nobody participated. Only 4 or 5 will be there. So this is the situation. Nobody is interested. They think provincial council is another system where you go and just talk something and come out. So nobody, in my experience, though the Northern Provincial Council is headed by a former justice, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, I'm sad to say that they have not understood what the provincial council system is. He should have asserted the powers of the provincial council. With all that, sir, what you said, Professor, had to, with all this, what do you call, difficulty, they should have asserted, sir, what is possible first of all. Then you go for the next. But they have failed to do that. So what we need is the provincial council system, first of all, as they asked me, I think, I hope I have another 2-3 minutes time.
Of course. Take 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now what I have experienced is, sometimes I have asked this question in public, debates, whether we Tamil need a provincial council. The reason is we don't have people, quality people to have administrated. I will tell openly. I am talking of my experience. 38 people were there in the provincial council of the Northern Province. How many people have the understanding of the provincial council system? How many people knew that we had to, as Professor said, we had to pass legislation to have the powers given in the 13th Amendment? Nobody took any interest. I am the leader of the opposition, but I have drafted a legislation for fisheries and handed over 28 pages. Nothing happened. So what I am telling is, what the provincial council had done for the Northern Provincial Council for the last 5 years, show the world that provincial council system is not working. That's what they are thinking. UNDP came forward to assist us financially. Professor said the government is not giving finance. I do agree. But there are other avenues. The war has given a lot of immense sufferings to the people of the North and East. But equal number of people are today living abroad, known as diaspora. They have enough money to invest. So Northern Provincial Council should have got that money and got the investment done into our area. They have failed to do that. They have not even attempted. So with all that, what I could say is, with all this 13th Amendment being not really what do you call it, if you speak in terms of real devolution of power, I do agree that Provincial Council has not given 13th Amendment is not to that extent. But still, we can do a lot with what is available. Northern Provincial Council has failed to do that, and I hope at least the coming generation, not the present generation, coming generation will stand to do that. And we need the Provincial Council, at least with what is available today, let us assert that power into our hand, then think of going further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, very insightful and rich with your experience, sharing your ideas, and you being showing how the provincial councils as a system has been meant to solve some problems that actually very pertinent and very sensitive questions, but in the practice, it has been consumed by ideological warfare.
Exactly. You have got the point. Thank you very much.
So with that, I mean, it's interesting to see how extremisms support each other. One extremism says, I mean, they prove that the provincial councils are useless. So with that, I will move to Honorable Nisam Karyapar, Secretary of the Muslim Congress, and I would like you to
thank you very much.
share your ideas in something like 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Actually, I do not have any experience in the provincial system except for a short while when I was a local authority mayor, which came under provincial council, is the Eastern Province. But I wish to say something, the practical reality starting from Professor Bandara and ending with my good friend Tawa. And what you just said about how the two extremes have proved that the provincial council of no use to this country. Because the political reality is completely different from what we think. Now, when the provincial council system was introduced, I think our party has played a huge role, virtually sacrificing number of members. I don't know if any one of you all knew that we at Sri Lanka Muslim Congress have sacrificed lives of at least 4 to 5 provincial council members only for the reason that we contested a banned Northeast merged provincial council elections. And I also like to place on record that we contested the election using a dummy name so that the real personality who really contested is hidden so that they will be saved from being killed by LTTE, which has put a death sentence on anybody who contested the election. So it's a history, it's a very relevant history because I heard two speakers are talking about the demand of the Northeast Tamils, especially the Tamil speaking, not only the Tamil, more Tamil speaking Tamils and Muslims, and more especially the Tamils who demanded a provincial council system was denied. But the reality is slightly different. The reality is provincial council was forced on this country as an excuse for whatever the geopolitical reason is the political reality. So that was a system that was completely, disowned by the majority of Tamil to begin with. I always, admire EPDP, the Honorable Mr. Douglas and Tawa for defying all that and being part of that system, but they were small minority. And they will go in the record as somebody who kept the hope alive. But the political reality, one has to accept that whether for whatever the propaganda carried out by the Tamil LTTE and the majority of the forces that were fighting for the self-government or the aspiration of the so-called Tamils were not at all satisfied, or they are not even willing to consider to give it a chance. Let me put it in that form. They were not even ready to try and see whether we could start from there and evolve. That's the short. So it is in these circumstances, I think the EPRLF, I believe, headed by former Varadaraja Perumal and SLMC and some other parties. And what more? Even the National Political Party of the South refused to own it. And UNB was compelled to go for it because they were the government which introduced. So that is the true and reality of the provincial council beginning. It took, as Tava said, quite a long time. 2013, he said, even for the Tamils to think, why not give it a chance and see. So from 87, it's almost 20 years or 25 years, Tava. How long it took
26
before the
years.
26
After 26
years. So that is out of so-called 30 years, 31 years, 26 years, okay, 5/6. The Tamils was not even willing to, if we put it, touch with their passport. They don't want to even touch that. That was the type of image that they created about this provincial council. Now, what happened in the south? Similar, absolutely the same. They call it absolute white elephant of no use whatsoever, and they call it, this is only a training period for training field for their secondary politicians of their political party to have a mock election, how to face a mock election at the cost of the taxpayers, to train themselves to face an election and to, like a, model parliament. It's the model provincial sort of people's representation for them to, get elected and then go there, have like a talk and get some perks and privileges. They are all budding parliamentarians waiting to get into the parliament in the future. So that is how the Sinhala majority looked at the whole system. This is the sad one, and we have once again came to point where we started. What's the position today? It is, as Tawa said, this is beautifully the agendas of both extremes merged to frustrate and throw the provincial council and tell it to the country and the world, this is of no use to anybody. And they successfully succeeded. Now take an example. We are without a provincial council system more than 3 to 4 years. Today we are facing a pandemic. And one of the subjects that was exclusively with the provincial council is a local authority. A local authority or the local government, which has a history of almost a century in this country, are nothing but public health. Correct me if I'm wrong, Professor. What was started as a sanitary board is all about Englishmen thought that at the root level, at the local level, at the grammar level, or at the urban, the street level, they should be able to organize their public health. So disposal of garbage, cleaning the drainage, and whatever that is necessary in order to maintain public health, because they realize central government trying to handle the public health at the village level is very challenging. And it is good for the people at that level for them to come forward with using the resources in that area to maintain the public health. Now we are having a pandemic where the local authority and the provincial council, which is the exclusively the local authorities under the provincial council, is supposed to play a major role in curtailing any infectious disease. Major role in curtailing an infectious disease. Now, I would say in a situation where things would have done in a proper manner in a pandemic at a national level, while they have the policy and all the resources, the local level, the provincial council would have played a wonderful constructive role to maintain the public health practices in their particular region. But today, we have the people, from people's point of view, it has been proved, demonstrated, without that the government, central government can handle it. And I think Yapalne government also unfortunately successfully helped the people to get the feeling, even without the functioning of the provincial council, because this was told again and again by the Sinhala extremists and nationalists. I even heard Sinhala Buddhist clergy talking, but now there is no provincial council. The country is not a single institution or the governmental institution is jeopardized or stalled as a result of non-working of the provincial council. What more proof that you need to show that this provincial council is of no use? So one side we have those who wanted the provincial system did not want to work on it. It is true. It may fall very lower than their aspirations and their expectations. I do agree with that. But at least giving it a chance to revolve on it and demonstrate to the central government the provincial system is complementary in taking over the burden of the central government institution, and we can constructively help to the working of the larger central government's burden. What really happened was, they did not even touch it. And by the time they touched it, unfortunately, I don't want to mention personalities, it was a failure as far as the North is concerned. Now look at East, at least now East, at least there was a government with some sort of blessings from the central government. But that again, there is a failure. All what we did in the East is to make use of some of those devolved subjects and look into the transfers of the education system that came under the provincial. And, local politicians were all clamoring to take the whatever the 1 or 2 educational institution to give it back to the central. Because of the people, they say if you're under the central government, is more beneficiary. So what the central government did was they kept the resources with them and made the people feel it's beneficiary for those schools and the institution to come under the central government. Every single agitation by the eastern area is to take their hospital under the central government so that it will get more fund. Take their schools to the central government so that they are going to be more fund. Even today, if you go and ask a particular village, what will you want from the central government? You make this A, B, C, D school, at least one school from one division, a central government school. But then look at it. All of them should have said, we don't want central government school anymore because they are all controlling from the Kalambu. We want a provincial school so that it will be handled by our people, our representative, and our chief minister and our education minister. No, that's completely the other way around. So that is how the government on one side handled it, and the other side we also fell into it. And finally, the future. Professor, I see you. I heard you asking when a new constitution comes, you must look into it. Let me put it very bluntly. Looking at the dimension or looking at the political reality and looking at the policies of the present government, it is nothing but a dream, even to think that even the little bit of powers that was given in the 13th Amendment will be given. Even the little bit of power that was given in the 13th Amendment will be given. Now, where does it take us? It will prove the northern extremists to go around with their diaspora and international. See, the government did not do that and start struggling to make people once again a scapegoat. Similarly, among the Sinhalese, they will say, see, this is a white elephant. We have spent so much of money for the people to maintain. Therefore, we have run the bloody provincial, the whole government without the provincial council. We have saved so much of millions of money. Better not give to them. So we are falling into this trap, and I have to end up in a very pessimist. There seems to be absolutely no future for this system. Thank you.
corporate ka lagi.
Over to you.
Mamaya na valir.
Coordinator must take over and continue with the meeting. That's my presentation.
Ko harende.
Hello. Hello.
We can see you.
Oh, you don't see me. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Here we go. Right. Thank you very much. Honorable Karyapar, you very interestingly touched on the fact of the trust fact, how the trust has been in deficit. How the trust. I'm also getting some disturbance from our back office. Probably can Akalanka or someone else can mute their mics. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. Now, yeah, it's very interesting as to how everybody wants government schools and not provincial council schools, which actually has to be the other way around. And thank you very much again on touching on the geopolitics of the subject. And then in the next round, I'm going to move into how to look at solutions. I mean, what's the way forward? How do we come out of the mess if you are in one? And with that, I will invite Honorable Kitsiri Manchanayaka. He's been sitting nicely in in his car. I think who's ready to dash off to next meeting. So I will kindly invite you to express your views, and also switch on your mic, please. Switch on your mic, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm a bit outstation. I'm due to signal matter.
Thank you very much joining us despite everything.
Yeah. So actually, been a provincial councillor for 3 terms since 2004 to 2018, and I would like to take a point of Professor Navaratna Bandara correctly mentioned that this is a half-baked one due to Indo-Sri Lanka pact. So they rushly got into this agreement and formed those the provincial council system into Sri Lanka. And again, former opposition leader Mr. Tavaras mentioned that they can do a lot of work if the councillors being trained or councillors awareness is, if we can increase the councillors awareness and so on and so forth. I think it's really correct, both their comments. I would like to take it up and start my giving my ideas. But first of all, I'll tell my experience at the Provincial Council. I started in Provincial Council as a UNP Provincial Council member for Western Province. I contested from Gampaha district and I got elected. Actually, I was not a born politician, but I was not I have a little bit of a political background. My uncle was a MP and a minister. Therefore, I had a little bit of a touch, but I was completely outside. I was stranger. I was in the IT industry. My background is software engineer. So from there only, I just got into politics because my hometown, there's some story behind that, right? So anyway, so then I was working at the UNP system, and I worked for Youth Front of UNP. Then Honorable Leader at that time wanted me to contest for the Provincial Council. Then I contested. I had very enthusiastic moment. So I was so, waiting to get into it. Just as soon as I got elected, I think that it's like a mini parliament. So I had a feeling like, right, it's a number two or the position to the Sri Lanka Parliament. So that sort of a feeling I had. So then I went to see some people and got some ideas. I met the seniors. I consulted them and got the experience, their experience, and how to work within the council. Then all the debates. I collected all the facts and I some suggestions, new ones, new suggestions, and likewise, we had so many good speeches, suggestions, and just keep going like this 1 or 2, 3 years. I feel that just nothing is implementing. Just we are talking, and the next month I can see the Hansard, my speech was there. Sometime it's on the papers, I can see it, but it's nothing implemented. So again, I have seen it now. Provincial council system is introduced in 1989. So that was, I think, Manga in Western province. Some Muna Singh, Susil Muni Singh was the chief minister. So then, since 1994 to 1990, sorry, 2018. So it is like the provincial council system is controlled by the PA government. I think Chandrika Bandar, Honorable Chandrika Bandar, was the chief minister one time. Like so, but my feeling in my term, I felt now this is a waste of time because we have debates, we have budget end of the year, so we are go and make so many presentation and speeches and given some valuable ideas, but it's nothing is getting implemented. And again, the people who got into the system, there are only 10% or 5 to 10% people only mostly participate in all the debates. So contribute their uh, ideas and values to the system. Others, they come, sit here, enjoy the perks, eat, drink, and go. So it's likewise, its practice has been there for 2018. So then after 2018, anyway, I've decided, no, this is not uh, for me to go and waste my time or for me to go and waste government money in this system. So therefore, I would like to say that this is a basically I heard that Professor Navaratna Bhandara also mentioned many times, like it's probably some people have a mindset, uh, is it's an white elephant. Yes, actually it's an white elephant because we are being paid around 160,000 rupees a month, including all allowances, petrol and everything. And again, top of that, there are we as a normal provincial council member is getting three employees. Each employee is getting 35,000 into three, and unlimited telephone bill. Some likewise, there are some around 500 to 600,000 you need to maintain a provincial councillor. And top of that, they are giving some money around 5 million, 4 million to 2.5 million, depending on the availability, to every year to do some work. So where most of them now, what they do is they buy some plastic chairs or their tent or something to get into the next time into the provincial council. They go and make happy the people or give some donations and so on. So therefore, I feel there is a waste of money in that aspect also. And again, even the without power devolution, so it's a completely my view is a completely and white elephant. And again, we have, when we are working with the line ministries, say health, provincial council, health ministry, and the line ministry of central government health ministry. So we don't have power right now. When we want to appoint some people, we'll say some so many vacancies in laborers or in terms of any vacancies, but we don't have a right, or we can't fill them. We have to go behind the treasury, central government treasury secretary to get the permission, their views. If they say no money, you can't and all. So you can't fill them also, right? So anyway, we are always, I don't know, north and east councils, but Western Provincial Council, always we have to depend on the central government. If central government says no, so we can't do anything. And again, so basically, it's work like this. Now, as I mentioned you earlier, this system since 1994 it was belongs to or run by PA government. So then the Provincial Council, most of the Provincial Council also till 2018 was belongs to the same government. So they ran the show for so many years. But the thing is, the line ministry minister work with sometimes, they don't like to go and fight it, argue for whatever the mechanism they don't like to use uh, because of they scared to go and talk to the line minister because in the same government, same party, this thing. So therefore, my personal feeling, my suggestion is to give more powers to the Western province. Otherwise, we'll leave it. So either we'll leave if you want to keep it. So give more powers, more authority, and get give and all the parties. I'm going to suggest to elect. I mean, nominate good people. I mean, there are some parties nominating people. I think they don't know what is provincial council is. I mean, they just come. They don't go to a workshop. They don't like to go and study it. They don't want to stay there. They take the salary pack end of the month, all the other perks, and go home. So they come to the two months. I mean, monthly we have 2 days the council. They come in the morning, right? But they don't come at the starting. I think my honorable Shiral Laktilak also was with me for I think one council I can remember. So that means they come and they go. I mean, they have some breakfast, they have lunch and go. So this is not we are basically we are expecting from a provincial council. So what my feeling is now, so many governments we got. I mean, mostly the PA governments. No single government initiated to give some powers to this provincial council. We requested, and in the provincial council level, we fought and we met all the president, prime minister, and all whoever who can as a group. I mean, not on the ruling party provincial councillors, opposition. We met many times and go and just told them, give us little bit of powers slowly. Don't give everything to us. Don't give police powers or land powers, but at least some other powers to step by step and see whether we are doing it, how we are handling it. But no one, they don't want to give that power. Basically, my feeling is from Her Excellency Chandrika Bandaranaike, then former Speaker Karujaya Surya, like they were in the Western Province. So they used this provincial council as a ladder to get into the parliament. Once they get into the parliament, they completely forget about the provincial council system and they don't look at that even. So that is basically most of the politicians use this as a ladder to get into the parliament. So my uh, the personal feel, this is not my party or any other opinion, this is my personal opinion. And again, I feel that the district councils are more effective than provincial councils, because I can remember one time honorable excellency the president Jayawardena's period, we had district ministers. Each district we have a district minister. So that during that time, I think we had some more efficient system within the district. Now, when I get into the provincial council, so I'm electing from Gampa district, or I'm representing my Dulapiti electorate, or I became a chief minister or a provincial minister. My plan is to work for my area, because I'm looking. I mean, even the parliament is similar, but it's but even though it's much more broader, but when you provincial council level, it's much more getting. That's why I said district level. If you have a council with little more powers, this will be more efficient and effective. So at last, before I stop my winding up, I just suggest provincial council need more powers if we want to use this existing system to continue. If the government is not willing to give more powers to the provincial council, please don't continue the provincial council. Go to district level or the Pradesh Sabha level to give more powers and rule it. Because otherwise, just keeping provincial council system as it is a waste of money, waste of time, and I think I have no words to say that it's a useless institution. Thank you.
Honorable Manchanayak, a quick question. Now you give the options to the government whether you are very pragmatic, and we like that very much. You give the option to the government. Okay, if you want to scrap it, then scrap it, or if you want to keep it, give it more powers.
Yeah, that's my bottom line.
That captures it in a nutshell. But
yeah.
you are very frankly. I mean, it's a very frank way of presenting your ideas, because you said you came to the Provincial Council with sky high hopes, and then got disillusioned a little bit, as you go on. Now, with all this, my quick one is, now if you are given choice, say you are the government, what's your choice? Will you keep the Provincial Councils, or will you scrap them?
No, actually, I mean, don't blame the North and East people to me for this comment. If I'm in the government side, I'm going to scrap the provincial college system. But I give more powers to the district council and let the district to work more efficiently manner than this one. Because district council is a small unit. That small unit, wherever the people who elect from the district can work for district. So it's only 25 units we have in Sri Lanka. That's all. So my personally, if I'm with the government, if I were to choose to give the powers, I said, yes, I'll give with more powers to district councils, not for the provincial councils.
So at least, I mean, with that, we know you are for. So I'm sorry, there's a leading question to that. So if I suggest, okay, Honorable Manchanayak is for power sharing from center to some layer down below, although province doesn't seem like a fit, is it? District is fine.
Yes,
so you are for
you
are for power sharing, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yes. Now, if you given powers, right, then you have to go give more powers if you are keeping the provincial council. But government doesn't want to give more powers, then you go to a district council level. Then you can district level power. You can move forward like this for a while and see the experience. But we don't have that experience yet. But when you want to keep the provincial council, but you have to give the entire power. Like India federal government, so I don't know the model they have to practice. They have to give that.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, shall we move to Honorable Shiralak Tilaka right now? And yes, please switch on your mic as well. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we'll come back to a winding session later. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I must mention that I'm representing my own views, not representing any other party.
Okay.
Although I'm a member of SJB, but I would rather like to talk as a member of former Provincial Council Western Province. I share most of the experiences with Honorable Manchanayak, whom I was sharing my council with him for last more than four years. Yes, that is true. Our personal experience is that it is a waste of time. But we have to address much more broader issue than having a provincial council in the southern part of the country. So therefore, I thought after hearing to three provincial councillors, or except Nizam, more or less everybody aired their frustration. That is true. The frustration is there all over the country, irrespective of the communities who are sharing this country. And we are talking about provincial council system, the feasibility of the provincial council system in the context of present government policy. Present government's policy of introducing a new constitution. That is a one point. Whether they are going to bring a new constitution or not, it is a fact that there is a dismay or dissatisfaction over the implementation, fast implementation of the provincial council system in the country. And also it is a fact that provincial council system is in limbo now due to a good work of Yahapalana government, who is, I'm also one of the members. So therefore, it is very difficult to think about future of the provincial council, even the given context of politics. But when you hear about Honorable Manchanayaka or Honorable Tawarasa, I think that it is a good time to start a new discourse on the feasibility or potential of provincial council system. In another way, devolution and power sharing to this country. We are quite sure the government, one part of the government is talking to abolish the provincial council system, and other part of the government who think like Manchanayaka said, whether they can reintroduce provincial council system, enable to the second tier politician to come and occupy it within the provincial council system. Those are the two views, but nobody is talking about real potential, real feasibility of the provincial council system. When you talk about this feasibility, I think we have to categorize the dissent against or dissent over the provincial councils. I say provincial council, devolution and power sharing system, notion, whatever the way you explain it. The first level, I mean, this is very important to understand the dissent. It is, if you want to think afresh, if you want to go back to your drawing boards and redesign the devolution and power sharing concept, I think most important thing is we have to understand what are the challenges we are facing against the existing provincial council system. I see there are 6 facets to this dissent. First is, I consider as a politics against the provincial council system. When you talk about politics against provincial council system, we know that Sinhala identity politics against provincial level power sharing. They would say we would like decentralization, but they would go against power sharing to the province. That is one aspect of the political dissent. The second aspect is, as Mr. Tawarasa explained, the Tamil identity politics also against the provincial council system, power sharing, on different ground. They talk about 2 provinces, north and east, as one unit, and also they talk about federal idea. So Tamil identity politics also against the provincial council system. Then I would rather like to add another one point, that is the propounders thinking. Propounders thinking is J.R. Javadana's thinking when he introduced 13th Amendment to the country through whatever the international law, local agreement. That is another point I would rather like to bring into the focus, that is symmetry versus asymmetry. We know, everybody knows in this country, the Tamils of this country are asking the equal share in politics. In another way, we can conceptualize it as their right to political liberty and right to political equality. So they need a unit, whether we like it or not. They are entitled. That is called in a broader manner self-determination of the Tamil people. What JR, whether he was compelled or India intervened or whatever the reasons, when JR Jayawardena introduced provincial council system under the 13th Amendment, he didn't want to introduce as a asymmetrical power sharing method. He introduced it as a symmetrical method. So while giving or while sharing power with the North and East, he introduced this to the other parts of the country to balance the system. In a way, like Professor mentioned, we call it competitive power sharing versus coordinative power sharing. In order to reduce competitive power sharing, J.R. Jayawardena wanted to introduce provincial council system to southern provinces where we don't want. That's why now we are saying provincial council is in southern part of Sri Lanka is a white elephant. So in such a sense, we have to find answer for this symmetrical offshoots of the symmetrical devolution. Now, this is what Mr. Manchanayaka is talking about, his experiences of Western Provincial Council, which also I share with him, similar view. So that is the first part of the problem or the issue. The politics which are going against the notion of power sharing provincial council system. Then second aspect is social perception. Society wise, we know that North and East, earlier they were called Tamil speaking people, but now we see Tamils as a distinct ethnic group and Muslims as distinct ethnic group. Demand for power share. But on the other hand, in the southern society doesn't want to see power sharing as a mode or method of decentralization, because they have a security syndrome within their mind. And also they think if you give that, you are giving your 2,500 years of inheritance of political power. So therefore there is a problem within the society. Then thirdly, the issue of development. Now Professor Navaratnam was talking about this provincial council cannot be considered as a second tier development arm, but it is a secondary unit to the first tier. That is true. But whatever it is, for last 70 years, the society is in a way demanding second and third tier governance. But unfortunately, we have not been able to convince the society highly centralization will not help you to find your own socio-economic problems. But still people think center will help you. That's why GMO comment very on and on demands to scrap provincial hospitals from the provincial councils and give it back to the central province. Even schools are like that in southern province. So that brings us to a third issue, that is our cultural aspect. We are having a highly centralized mindset. That is our culture. In such a concept or context, decentralization, we must very carefully use this word. Even decentralization is not accepted. Now, when I call decentralization has several aspects. Deconcentration. That is, deconcentration is the decentralization of the administration power. Now, this is what yesterday Mr. Vimal Veerawan's party has put forward to the Constitutional Drafting Committee. They say, okay, we would agree a deconcentration method, nothing else. Then we have the delegative powers. As Mr. Nizam Karyappa mentioned, local government system. But it is based on borough system and mainly concentrating on public health issues, sanitary issues. But for last 70 years, we have not been able to go away from that concept or British borough system and establish a third tier, like I don't know whether it is third tier or fourth tier. Now Indians have brought this Panchayat concept, but still we have not been able to move away from the third tier. In that context, the second tier development arm is needed potentially, but the society is not prepared to accept that. That is another problem. Then fourth issue, or I would say fourth issue is, as we discussed all along, where Professor Navaratna Bandara and Jayampati and others constantly wrote several books about the inherent structural weaknesses of the provincial council system. Now, the concurrent list, the structure, the fiscal powers, etc., are there within the provincial council system. So, but you have to take it as a fourth facet of this problem, because when the very existence of the concept is in danger, there is no point of talking about the inherent weaknesses of the concept. But anyhow, we have to put that together when we are talking about new constitution, new model or something like that. Then fifthly, I would bring this aspect, the basic first principles of the constitution. Now in India, the Supreme Court judgment and also Indian constitution accept the constitutional first principles. Now, it's interesting to see whether the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka would accept power sharing as a first principle of the constitution. We know that, and we accept popular sovereignty, we accept power sharing, separation of power, checks and balances, judicial independence, fiscal sovereignty, etc., as a first principle of the constitution. But there is a doubt to me whether our Supreme Court will accept power sharing as a first principle of Sri Lankan constitution. The only precedence we have is the 13th Amendment, Supreme Court judgment. So that is also an issue. If somebody wants to abolish 13th Amendment, this would create a problem. Finally, the sixth issue, where I'm also part of that, from 1994, we were Professor Navaratna Bandara, and we are all in same group, where we introduced several notional philosophies in order to support provincial council system, devolution, power sharing. So one of the notions where the Peradeniya, Gurukulaya propounded is the integration, notion of integration. So we have to rethink whether this notion of integration is workable idea in the country. And also another concept where this Peradeniya school of thought introduced to us is this multiculturalism. So I think we have to rethink about that. I'm talking about interculturalism right now. So there are so many notional issues when you talk about power sharing. Ultimately, all these issues ultimately converge into one point: whether Sri Lanka is going to give a political space for Tamils and Muslims in this country in their decision-making thing. Up to 1980s, there were very vociferous, organized, intellectual groups who stood for the right of self-determination, right of the Tamil people, right of the Muslim people, etc., etc. Nowadays, I don't see this discourse even existing in such a context. By using these 5 or 6 notions that I have put forward, it is very, very easy for a organized ideological group to brush off the idea of provincial council system, and also the Yahapalana Anduva, which I also part of that government, has paved the way to fizzle off the provincial council system by not introducing the provincial council election system. Now it's matter of the government to reintroduce the old provincial council election system. I don't know, it is also questionable whether it needs 2/3 majority or simple majority to revert back to the old system, old election method. Whatever it is, when you try to introduce that, there would be a tug of war within the government. Single identity politics will try to sabotage that attempt. Then people who want provincial council system as a training institute may perhaps try to persuade the opposition to vote with them, and perhaps it may be successful, but it will create bitter political tension. On the other hand, as Harendra was talking about this geopolitics, the Indian factor will prevail over this issue. So it will give some supporting hand to Mr. Basil Rajapaksa's thinking, that where he wants to have the provincial council once again, and it will debilitate the Sinhala nationalist perception or feelings to abolish the provincial council system. But I think within next couple of years, we may see whether this provincial council system is going to survive or not. But it is the duty of us who believes plural democracy. We have to protect some kind of provincial council system or 13th power sharing or devolution, where I would rather like Mr. Manchanayaka's proposal, while having an asymmetrical power sharing to North, introduce new kind of provincial council system based on district development, where it is feasible. So we have to address all these aspects. So that is my view. But definitely within another 1 or 2 years, we have to face this reality, whether we are going to have provincial council system or we are going to abolish it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Aktilaka, for very organized presentation, and you captured in 6 beautiful points how the question at large on the provincial councils, the politics, the social perception, the culture, the inherent weaknesses in terms of structure and capabilities, and then the first principles of the constitution, whether we are a nation by default, whether we are a nation that upholds power sharing, like some of the other democracies which are federal states, and then the integration of minorities perception. So, and everything, as you very rightly said, it boils down to one thing of the political space for minorities. But at the same time, isn't it not a question of not just the minorities, but the way the things are, the political space as political space for diversity is anyway at large challenged. So with that, I will move to Professor Navaratna for a moment. I mean, do you have now from this point onward? I'm going to go to Professor Navaratna for a few minutes because he's been listening to all these presentations and he might have some interesting remarks to make. And then a all direction question and answer discussion among the members now from after Professor Navaratna's comment. Thank you very much, Professor Navaratna, please. Professor Navaratna, you have to switch on the mic. Switch on the mic, please.
It's okay now?
Yeah, you're fine. Right. You're fine.
Actually, initially, I didn't want to focus on this, the politics of devolving power in Sri Lanka. I think Siral actually brought them to the discussion. Actually, he has brought more than 6 points. Very interesting points were there. I found more than 6. But first, I would like to come to this geopolitics.
Yeah.
As Siral says, India is actually it was the most powerful conditional factor of introducing provincial councils in 1987. So India didn't come here to help the Tamils. India came here because of their strategic and national interest were endangered because of our dealing with India's enemies here, bringing various type of foreign element here. Then India came, and if you go back to the letters exchange between Jayajavardhan and Rajiv Gandhi, just after signing the Indo-Pak Accord, you can see what was actually the the factors why India came here. In that letter, Jayajavardhan gave a promise to India. We are not allowing our territory to any external party inimical to India's interests, our territory. And specifically mentioned about Trincomalee Harbor, the Iranavela Voice of America, upgrading, those were some rumors. Actually, they were not just him, but Indian policymakers are very upset about that. And then finally they came here. And what India wanted was to contain LTT. They suspected India's LTT's motives. And still, that is why India is still keeping LTT as a banned organization. So Sri Lankan government also wanted to contain the LTT. So then both got together, signed it, and brought IPKF here. That is actually my PhD thesis. It is, the title is Big Neighbor Syndrome. That was done that was submitted in 1990.
I think still very relevant reading even today.
Yeah, it's Big Neighbor Syndrome. It's published outside when I have just 2 copies with me. So that conditional factor is still with us. India won't go away. It is our big neighbor, and scenarios have changed, but India's interests are unchanged. India is still looking at Sri Lanka as a part of their territorial sovereignty. If power sovereignty is broken, India's sovereignty is broken. That is how Indian policymakers think in that way. That was actually part of Indian strategic thinking since 1940s. That fact is there. So then actually when I listen to these, our honorable members, when I treat even Siral also as an honorable member of former Provincial Council, their experience. So then I find that actually many politicians were not genuine in this sense. 2, no genuineness, no commitment to the devolution of power sharing, no. So most of the political political representatives came to the Provincial Council just for perks. As Harindra correctly said, okay, just for perks. And then it became just a talk shop. And Mr. Tavaraja said that the Northern Provincial Council, they didn't pass sufficient statutes to run the system, but they have passed more than 100 resolutions. So that's politics. So this Provincial Council become actually springboard. Even until 87, the Provincial Council election were conducted here. Actually, it's like a mock election. JRJ wanted to, like in our system, our signal, we said, to put the vote first, then go to the next election. And even Northern Provincial election was going to be held. I have written in my chapter, both security leaders, IPKF and also Sri Lankan military advised not to conduct the elections. But Dixit wanted to have it. His argument was, we IPKF here, we don't have justification for keeping our army here. We came here to support the Provincial Council system, we have to go for. So then JR also agreed. And then finally, election became some sort of political, game manipulation. So since then, all the Provincial elections actually for political game. It's a political game. No one was genuinely interested in that way. But I am even not talk about the new constitution. I don't have any trust on that, because if a new constitution comes, we must have a more democratic, more people-friendly constitution. We don't have the something now. We know where the current political trend is going towards, right? So we don't expect that system would come with the genuine devolution. But anyway, as Cyril correctly identified, we have to survive. We have to survive the idea of devolution and power sharing. In that sense, also I said that if anyone wanted to come for a new constitution, whatever it is, or revising or something like that, they have to study what went wrong with the system, at least to correct those structural and also formal and informal mechanisms which actually impede the functioning of the system. At least but problem is actually because of this Indian factor, I don't think that our politicians cannot just abolish it. India is not interested in the power sharing. And India still now see the same sort of strategic dangers surrounded our line. So India has new alignment now, right? But India maybe use this as again scapegoat, right? Northern issue and our power sharing, those things are scapegoat for India if they want to intervene again. So it is good for our politicians to think correctly, right? To keep India as our friend and our neighbor and closest neighbor. So make a better devolution or actually addressing whether we are going to give some share to the minorities in the political space. That is what is, even so for that even they can find a better alternative than provincial councils, good. But I don't think that we can go back to district councils now. It was the idea started in 1940 when State Council debated Provincial Council proposal submitted by the Donamo Commission, because they are the people who submitted Provincial Council idea of Sri Lanka. Then in 1940, there was a debate in the State Council. Then State Council decided to go for District Council. So that idea came forward. So because of India's participation, the long facilitated dialogue, with various
Professor,
you know, places.
Thank you, Professor
Finally,
Navarat. I
we
want
went
to take
to. I'm going to just one
Oh,
minute.
sure.
Yes. Then we went to the provinces,
Yeah.
right? Abandoning district. So now we have 9 provinces. If you want to have another district, then we have 25 units again, right? Then the how many provinces? Pradesh Sabha, how many local government? So the coordination of these bodies is also a problem. Even in 1940, the big problem was coordinating and supervising the local government system. One member in that debate said this one word, hopelessly corrupted. That was his word for local government. That is why they supported some sort of apex body. So those things are there. So this, I will stop here now. These are just for inform.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor. Again, very good thoughts to capture everything, everything that happened in the discussion. I hear Honorable Manchanayake has to leave. So I will give, I mean, if any quick comments to be made, because I'm going to go around before we wind up at 4:30, 4:35. So
I also would like to make a comment on what Mr. Majanayake and Shiral had.
Honorable Tavaraza, give me a second, because Honorable Manchanayake has to leave. So we'll
but he has to listen to me. That is my point.
Oh, right. Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Only on that point later. Otherwise, I
okay,
can
perfect. I understand.
Give me a chance again. So I would like to address only on the point of white elephant, whether the provincial council system is white elephant.
Good.
Because for those in the south, can you hear me?
Of course.
Everybody. I can hear you.
Yeah. For those who are in the south, particularly the provincial councils other than north and east, the provincial council system itself is really a rearrangement of the re-institutional arrangement. It is not a devolution of power for them. So for them, as correctly pointed out by Mr. Majanayake, it's for the politicians a stepping stone to become a member of parliament.
An incubator.
They were not concerned about devolution. They have not fought for their, even during these 26 years of lapse, as I said, from 1987 up to the point the North Provincial Council elections were held, all the provincial councils in the south were functioning. They never demanded, whenever administratively the center little by little took over the power, they were not bothered about it, because that is something they were not asking. It is only an institutional arrangement. And come to the point that about the white elephant, I would categorically say, you could check with Mr. Asoka Gunawardena, the former Finance Commission chairman. He had told us during some deliberations that the additional expenditure or additional overheads to the provincial council is less than 4.5% of the total expenditure of the provincial council. Because there are schools, hospitals, and all this system, whether it is under the provincial council or center, you have to meet that expenditure. So it's not an additional burden. The additional expenditure, according to Mr. Asoka Gunawardena, is because he was in the Finance Commission, he knows the statistics. Yeah. And one more point, I was a member of the Public Representative Committee on Constitutional Reform headed by Mr. Lal Vijayanayake. We have visited all 25 districts getting the public opinion for constitutional change. I have personally visited about 8, then I read the report of others. But except one district, nowhere people have said, we don't want the provincial council system. The one district that said majority is Kandy. Other than that, all other districts, people only, they were scared that it should not lead to separation. They were scared about federalism, but they were not scared about the provincial council system. Okay. I have some else to say, but I will come.
I will come back to you. Honorable Manchanayake.
Okay,
now it's yours.
Because I want to answer to Mr.
Right, thank you. Sorry for back-to-back meeting from the morning. I have last meeting at 4:30 from it. Right. I just wanted to say in a minute or two, as Professor Navaratsa mentioned, that if the district council is impossible at this moment or due to some various reasons. But my feeling is right. Okay, if it is not possible, then scrap it, or otherwise gives more power into this, and change the election system, the professional system to some other, whatever the system, and make this politician Otherwise what will happen is we are fighting among ourselves, even for the provincial council, even for the local government and the parliament, all right. So we have, then you can be a decent, can produce a decent politician. But otherwise, now today, I feel that some politicians can't contest. They don't like to come into politics. Some people, so they are a good, educated, good people, or they don't want to come to the system. Now I can remember in the provincial council in 2004 we had a very good team, but when it comes to 2009 for provincial council election contestants, but 50% of them they didn't contest the second time because they don't want to waste their time over there. So therefore, my last suggestion and request is to either we keep it, if we are going to keep it, so give more powers to the provincial council. Otherwise, we'll scrap it and get another alternative solution. I think probably this is, as Mr. Tavarasa mentioned, it's probably this part of the country. Southern part of the country is more preferable. People are more preferable not to have provincial council, but sometimes probably north and east may require that solution or a similar solution to that. But now, at the moment, these southern people are mostly depend on the central government ministers, central government MPs, and all. They don't care much of the provincial councillors. So that's why the most people they don't want to contest also provincial council. So that's my last view. Thank you very much. I think my friend Shiral also were with me in the council, so we both had the same experience. So thank you very much, given us the opportunity. So I only 2 ways to get into the next meeting. Thank you very much. Bye.
May I say something on? May
Yes.
I say my view? Now we have discussed, analyzed this existing system. There are a lot of books have written, everything is done. But when you talk about way forward, I think we have to done away with this symmetrical power sharing stroke devolution model. For north and east, let's have a asymmetrical power sharing. For the southern part of Sri Lanka, you have to restructure whether India is like it or not. I don't think restructuring provincial council system in southern part of Sri Lanka, India may not have any problem, but it is the reality that you have to change this southern provincial council system, and also when it comes to the north and east, then improving the provincial council system based on structural defects is one issue. Second is reforming the existing provincial council system in the southern part of Sri Lanka is another issue. So we have to address it with a rational mind. I'm a committed power sharing man, but we have to face the reality. So therefore, people like Professor Navaratna Mandara has to think about that. DDC, we can introduce it to the southern thing within the provincial council system. If I'm given a chance to explain it, I will explain in another forum how you
We'll
can
come back for another session.
Yeah.
Many questions unanswered.
You are exactly correct. That's what I meant also. Because wherever we, southern part of the country, we are not looking for a same provincial council system, but probably north and east may require that. So we can think about in a different style. I mean, that is Shiral exactly correct. That's what we should go for it. I mean, otherwise, that's the way forward for us, right? So otherwise, we don't like to go into the same basket and try to be there. So we'll try to change it. Two systems is also the possibility.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have to excuse me. I just have to join the meeting.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
4:30. Yes.
Thank you.
Honorable Karyappa.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Sure
I think quickly, I think Shiral touched on an important area. Now, in my first response, I was fully negative of the whole thing. Not that not out of my personal feeling, but I was looking from the political reality. But to be very honest, the identifying the Muslims as a political community, we owe everything to the Provincial Council. One cannot deny the fact that is a one forum with or without power, at least symbolically, we are being taken seriously, or that our presence are felt, and we were able to even become the chief minister from the Muslim community. Maybe we have to keep on rotating with another Tamil or a Muslim, but essentially, the Eastern Provincial Council provided us an opportunity of being recognized as a political community, a political people of this country. So from that point of view, a provincial council in the Eastern Province play a huge role. Secondly, even to the political minority living outside Northeast, a sizable number of minority community each province, which in percentage is higher than in the context of the national level, had given them some political importance. We know situations where, especially in the West and Sabaragamuwa, and sometimes in the Central, we can play a constructive role even in forming government or taking our stand. So we can have an impact. They're talking about the Tamils in the Central Province. It has also given them an opportunity of serving in the executive board as a matter of right rather than at the discretion of some, the main chief minister, for the simple reason that the support of that particular minority is vital. So I would like to end my comment of reiterating the importance of existence of the provincial system in whatever the form, so that the fact that the first step of the power sharing was recognized in this provincial council system, that should not be reversed under any circumstance. But I would like to hear from Professor Bandara on this question of symmetric and asymmetric devolution, because my little understanding is that is exactly what the India wanted, and it is JR who fearing that might give the feeling in the South that they have created a Tamil chief minister in the Northeast, which is similar to of a separate first step towards Elam. So that feeling, like, when a paper reports about a Muslim provincial chief minister in the East, or a Tamil chief minister in the North, or the Tamil chief in the East, and there is no reference to a chief minister, Sinhala chief minister in the rest of the province, is not going to be, treated or welcome or received by the Sinhala community as something, and they might psychologically feel that there's a special privilege that has been conferred to the Tamils and the Muslims at a time when the entire Sinhala people feel that the geographical right of a particular community in this area is considered a sort of a banned thing for them. So I also want to wish, because before we even start this discourse about asymmetric, I get a feeling politically it is suicidal to venture into such discussion. Thank you.
Can I support your view with another question? Because to Honorable Laktilak and Professor Navaratna. Now, our constitution says this is a country that where the sovereignty belongs to the people, as opposed to communities or any other group. So it's a country where people have the power, and we also in a situation. This is and also the question that the country has one law. So in a platform like this, how do we put forward the idea of asymmetric devolution?
This asymmetrical idea is not a new one. It was proposed some time back, even as Ariappa said during J.R. Javadan time also it was considered. And I don't have any personal view on that one, whether I agree or not that, but I think, as I even agreed with Mr. Ariappa, the Sinhala community might think that country is going to divide into two, right? Give more powers and give one part to Tamil and other part to Muslim, and we are going back to district. That might come again. So these are some of the things to be, considered. Otherwise, we can propose asymmetrical, but symmetrical was proposed actually to identify even the province as unit, not identifying them as ethnically, right? Or devolved to provinces, not to Tamils or not to Muslims or not to Sinhalese, right? Though the constitution use word people, right? People in one sense, there's not identifying people ethnically. No, nothing in the constitution identifying people indifferently, right? People as one unit. So all inclusive. So and the other problem is, as Siral suggested, that the constitution does accept power sharing as a principle, constitutional principle. That's the one thing, because this accepting unitary principle and giving it as the most foremost thing in the constitution, everywhere to, right? So then that is why this devolution in this is actually formed in this way, right? So, and also I didn't actually say that provincial council were useless, but provincial council have done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? If you take these 250 statutes, most statutes are very properly conceptually focus on the particular subject. And even not only 300, under this subject, if you divide the subject into 2 or 3 areas, they can actually pass more statutes under one subject. Right? You can't say the one subject, only one statute. There are so many statutes could be drafted. And actually, province has not used that power in that way. That's why I think Mr. Raja's argument was that Northern leadership didn't want to make it a success. They just be there, as other members said that even the other provincial council, many members came to use the perks, and maybe Northern political leaders want to use it as a springboard for their political ideas, right? And go on that way. These are the problems we have to face. This is the part of the politics here, right? The problem is, as Siral mentioned, that our political culture, people have the statist mindset, not centralized statist. They only look at the state. Even by that, in the remote village, people want that from the central government, not the provincial or local. Right? So provincial and local government become actually just some springboard for the politicians to play. Right? The perks, power, money, all these things. And I didn't accept that vital argument. As I said, just 4% of the total state revenue is being used by the provincial council. Right? From that point, 4 point, even just 1 point, just 1 point go to the, if it is also get to that 4 point as 100, just 1 point go to the expenditure of the special appointments or the ministers actually. But that is a big money if you come into the take in the millions. Right? If you get a million, billions is a big money.
Yeah.
Right? So that is why people are talking about that. But the problem is they were never given an opportunity to the provincial council to work properly, even given that framework. My argument is, even within this given framework, if they were given the necessary capacities, provincial council actually contribute to the democratic governance of this country, even the development process.
Right.
And going beyond that, is a political issue. I think that is we have discussed in different way. And I actually welcome Siral argument that what we talked in the beginning, that integration, whether integration or assimilation, whether we want to follow the strategy, right? The ethnic policy of this country, it is actually assimilative.
Yeah. Now,
Not integrative. Not integrative.
May I say something on this?
Yes, Honorable Laktilaka, I would like to to give the space to you and then to wind up with Honorable Tavarasa.
Yeah, let Mr. Tavarasa to wind up because ultimately they are the people who suffer, so they have to have the ultimate word saying on this. But when you think about this whole evolution of power sharing debate, it is high time for the people who are standing for power sharing devolution, like us, like Professor Bandara, etc., to rethink about our whole attitude and approach toward power sharing. When we started thinking about power sharing in the wake of 30 years of war, there are several other compelling issues as well as half-truths, lies, and etc. was existing. We talked about this. Now, after 27 years of existence of Provincial Council and post-war situation, it's high time to rethink about our thinking on Provincial Council system, devolution and power sharing, not to dilute our stand, but to take a pragmatic view on this. As Nizam mentioned correctly, when Thimpu principles were called, they were talking only about Tamil-speaking people, ignoring the Muslim existence. It's a half-truth and a lie. And also, when Vadukode resolution was passed based on right to self-determination and external factor, Oslo Declaration negate the Vadukode principle. So there are a lot of changes happen. But one stark reality is Tamil people have their own self-determination. External factor is not applicable to Sri Lanka. So in such a case, whether or not, one thing where Tamil nationalists must understand, there is no separation. On the same breath, we have to say, then what? Entitled for them. It is the power sharing based on internal self-determination. Then the issue is, in Sri Lanka, we have national minorities, regional minorities, and individual minorities. So we have to restructure our decision-making process accordingly. Now, as Nizam said, not only Provincial Council devolution, but consociational model also to be contemplated. And commission-like structures, equality commissions for individual minorities, whether the national, ethnic minorities or ideological minorities, there are minorities in the part. So likewise, we have to rethink, redesign our whole thinking before fighting with extremists, nationalists. So it's high time to go away from this entrenched thinking. So let's think about that. Let's discuss, debate over that, and how to bring a new thinking for the whole power sharing devolution ideology. That is the need, not to stick with 30 years of thinking. It is also an evolving subject. So that is the message I want to give it to you, where we can discuss it in another forum.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, what we the good discussions are like that. Every time we finish, we have to discuss more, and we don't know much about what we discuss. So with that, I will move to Honorable Tavarasa, and yours is the final remarks. Because I thank everybody, and then yours is the final remarks, and then we wind
I
up.
have 2 points only. One is about Provincial at the start. First, he said about these provincial councils being now administered by the governors. Really, it is not the fault of the Provincial 13 Amendment. It is a willful action of the previous government. I want to categorically state. Provincial knows it very well. In 2017, they brought an act to change the election system. Then they appointed the delimitation committee. The delimitation committee gave their report in February 2018. It was taken up for debate in Parliament in September 2018 after almost 5-6 months. Then it got defeated. According to the act, you had to appoint a review committee. The speaker appointed the review committee headed by the Prime Minister, duly appointed in later part of September. And according to the act, within 3 months, review committee had to submit their report to the president. But that review committee from September, end of September 2018, up to March 2nd, 2020, the date the parliament got dissolved, they have not even met. That is why I used the word willful action of the previous government. Okay, now I am coming to the next point, that whether we had to go for, there are so many ideas given about district councils, asymmetric, etc., etc. I would like to say we should not disturb the system. We can have ideological ideas, but we must be pragmatic. If we go to disturb the system right now, either asymmetric or district, asymmetric will upset the people in the south. District council system will upset the people in the north and east, or the Tamils particularly. So rather than that, now we have a system in force, we have the constitution in place. Only problem is the 13th Amendment, there are flaws. Number two, over the years, over now 30 years, over the years, the administrators in the center, as I repeatedly said, had taken the powers to their hand. So what we had to do is, first, let the provincial council elections to be held. Of course, I don't know whether people in the north will elect the right people. At least let those people assert what is in the constitution. I am not asking more than that. I am not telling anything more. Now, over the years, there were, for example, the Finance Commission has the right only to decide on how the revenue of the country has to be distributed between the center and the provinces and amongst the provinces. But practically, what they do is, they even say this, so much money has to go to health, so much money to the education, so much to the school. They have no right to do that, constitutionally, I mean. But they do it practically. So likewise, I can go on adding number of issues where administratively the center is taking the power into their hand. So those things, we have to administratively see that they are given back to the provinces. Then at a second stage or later, we can see how these inbuilt flaws in the system can be rectified or remedied. So we should not disturb the system. Let us go ahead with this and see, implement it in the right way. Only thing, as I point out in at the beginning, we need the right people to handle it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Navaratna and Honorable Thavaraja, and most of the other participants had to leave because somebody's phone died, and somebody had to leave for another meeting. But Honorable Akhtar is here, and One Text Initiative for putting this together and taking this important discussion to the forum, and many interesting ideas and important ideas also were tabled. I think we need to come back to another round of discussion to
exactly. Yeah.
To take this forward.
More discussion. Now it's only a.
Yeah. So with that, I will say thank you very much and close the session.